Hello, new and returning viewers. My name's Sauce, and today we're going to be covering Yamata-no-Orochi in Nioh, which is technically the last boss in the campaign, excluding submissions. So, without further delay, let's go ahead and get right into it. This boss fight I found was relatively difficult. I think it took me maybe 3 or 4 attempts to get. The concept is simple, but when you get towards the end, all hell seems to kind of break loose. So let's take it one step at a time and start by basically the phases of this fight, and then we'll talk about the abilities. So the concept for this fight is relatively simple. You'll want to damage the head. As you see, they have their own little HP bar. This one is at no health and out of key. When they're out of key, they'll stagger and drop to the ground. So I recommend using the corresponding element, the opposite I should say, to defeating each of these heads. So there's a fire one, an electric one, a water one, a wind one, an earth one. So obviously if you're fighting fire, you want to use water. If you're fighting wind, you want to use earth. If you're fighting electricity, you want to use water. And there's a couple other ones that overlap as well. So after you've defeated the first head, a second one will appear, and then you'll have to defeat both of these to progress to where the next set will come out, and that will be 7 at once. That's kind of where it gets really, really crazy. After you've defeated all 7 of those, and the boss is roughly at 10%, he'll transform into one final head, and once you beat that, congratulations, you've just beaten the main bosses of Nioh. So all of these heads that we're going to be fighting have common abilities and unique abilities. These white ones that we're fighting right now, I believe that this fire breath is common in all of their abilities, all the different heads, but that purplish orb that they were spitting out will drop a yokai orb, leaving yokai realm residue on the ground. I do believe that that is unique to this white tipped head that we're fighting currently. My biggest recommendation for this fight is to stick to one head at a time. As you can see, there's this one here that's relatively low on health, and his key bar is almost completely out. So once I finish him off, you'll see a considerable chunk of the boss's health will drop. As far as all of these other heads that just popped up out of nowhere, all of their heads are going to be based off of their element. So the fire orb is not going to track. The lightning will track the player, and there's 3 strikes of it. The green wind cleaves, those are gonna not track but go extremely fast towards the player. And you're also gonna want to make sure that you don't have what I have on me right now, which is the multi-elemental debuff, and that's where your stamina regen's extremely slow. Again, the biggest recommendation that I can have for you is equip the opposite element of what you're currently fighting. I found that that was the best way to deal with this boss. Their abilities don't seem to hit too hard, but when they combine and they start hitting you back to back, that's when it really seemed to be like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. Alright, so now we only have, it looks like, 2 heads left, and once I put in a little bit more damage on one of them, it's going to take form into one head. And I think that they combine, and then the one head has all of the abilities of all of the previous heads that you have been fighting, which is, I thought, really, really cool. And kind of a side note, the fight really reminded me of kind of like a Hydra kind of like enemy from like the Greek mythology. And again, as we finish off these last few heads, they're going to combine and turn into the final head of this gigantic serpent-like creature. Now this head that we're fighting here is actually going to have all the previous abilities, and they're going to be very, very, very much enhanced. I found on my first attempt that one lightning strike from this thing will kill you almost instantly. So my recommendation is now's a great time to pop your living weapon and use it here, just because if you are hit by any of these attacks, you know, your living weapon is going to absorb that, and kind of has a sporadic move set at this point. You're not really going to be able to figure out what it's going to use because it doesn't have much of a gauge for it. It just kind of does things. These spikes that the boss is throwing, you can block those. Just as a heads up, they do leave, as you can see, yokai realm on the ground. And that pretty much sums it up for this boss fight. If you guys found the content to be useful, please do feel free to leave me said like, and I'll leave you a little sauce at the end so you know exactly where to click. That way you can subscribe and stay up to date with my latest videos. As always, folks, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay saucy.
I've got news for you. You're mine now. You belong to me.